Hello, I'm getting ready to go live here in just a minute. And so it's 2 o'clock here in Arizona, and I'm Suzanne Wilson, known as the Intuition Educator and Carefree Medium because I am based in Carefree, Arizona. I also happen to believe that you can live a more carefree life when you learn how to tune into your own inner abilities to be intuitive and to make your own direct connections with spirit loved ones and guides. And I am here to talk about the gods with a lowercase g and where they sent by God with a capital G, meaning if you're monotheistic, as am I, where you trust that there is one great source of energy that runs through all of us, that is within all of us, did this source, this divine source, or perhaps you refer to him, her, it, this energy as a creator, send us these non human intelligent beings in the past generations, over the past millennia, and now as our world has been facing so much turmoil and violence. And so I'm going to very briefly discuss some of the prevailing theories about the non human intelligent beings. And this will include extraterrestrial and ultra terrestrial. And I'll tell you what my definitions are of those two and how I distinguish between them here in just a moment. But first, as you're watching this, whether you're watching the live stream or you're watching the replay, I would like to invite you to get yourself grounded and centered by taking a nice big breath in, breathing all the way out, and see yourself sitting in a beautiful cone of white light, or perhaps you prefer a bubble of protection and focus. Whatever feels right to you, but just be grounded and centered and know that here there's no judgment, that you're welcome to be an explorer, someone who is curious and wants to gather information. I may leave you with more questions than answers. Please let that be okay as we discuss this topic. Now, I'd like to preface this by letting you know that I have spoken on ascension and the ultra terrestrial connection at international conferences. And I also have the Intuition Educator School at my website, intuitioneducator.com or carefreemedium.com. I want to get this information out to as many people as possible because people are feeling very afraid of what's going on in the world right now. So let me preface these next remarks by saying I do not claim to have all of the answers. I'm a researcher. I've been featured on Coast to Coast AM with George Noory. I've been on Gaia TV, the television show that has been on with Bruce Lipton and Dean Radin and several wonderful colleagues called superpowerfilm.com. You can see them on Amazon Prime. But what really matters is I have had personal experiences with non human intelligent beings going back to childhood, where I used to be afraid of them. They weren't mean or scary to me in any way, but they were unusual looking, and sometimes I'd be startled by them. And even to this day, I've had contact as recently as this morning with an Arcturian form. And years ago, this would sound crazy, and I would have hidden it. And it was wild enough just to say that I could communicate with people who are no longer in bodies, who were people. Now I'm telling you that there are non human, intelligent, sentient beings around us, and some of these work as guides. I distinguish between extraterrestrial and ultraterrestrial in this way. The ultraterrestrials are best understood by a survey of our ancient history, our ancient wisdom teachings, and their interactions with us. that they do not fly around in ships. They have grown beyond that need to have a corporeal structure, a body to live in, that they're in their light bodies. So if you consider, yeah, how old humankind is compared to them, there is no comparison. They've had many more millennia to develop into, as the common nomenclature says, ascend. And so the ultraterrestrials are part of our wisdom teaching, part of our ancestry teachings throughout the world. We can find evidence of their interactions with us. And in this brief format, I won't get too much into that. You're welcome to check out what's going on the website and the community, but I'd want to distinguish between extraterrestrial and ultra. Now, the extraterrestrials would most likely be in some kind of vessel or ship. These are the ones that we see being reported by the military around the world, having sightings of them, and no other plausible explanation as to how the craft move, how they phase in and out, how they make maneuvers, how they go from 0 to unlimited speeds in a matter of milliseconds. And the extraterrestrials don't seem to wish us harm, but can harm us accidentally by not understanding their impact upon us. So the ultra terrestrials are more likely to work behind the scenes to help us. The ultras are more likely to serve as spirit guides to us, those unseen beings who work behind the scenes to help us out. And the extraterrestrials are more likely to be the ones spotted in the sky. I have my own CE5 group, or Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind private group, and we have seen some physical sightings, which has been very interesting to us. But others of us, before we even had that, had interactions with the non-physical ones, the ultra terrestrials as well. And so here's what literature is telling us, what other experiencers are telling us, and what our own human history is telling us is that there's a couple different theories. One is that we have been having our genetic material manipulated, and that we have hybrid races that blend with these non-human intelligent beings. And that's why millennia ago we were very smart, we were very adroit with equipment and technology. We could build the pyramids. That whole it's kind of, I think, like in my humble opinion, an old wives' tale that extraterrestrials came here, used us as slaves to build pyramids. My opinion from the research that I've done and gathered is that they just helped us to be very, very smart and taught us things, and we were not their slaves, but worked side by side with them in creating all these wonderful structures in ancient human history. And then another theory is that they dumbed us down, that we would be easier to control, and easier to not go out of control if they dumbed us down at some point. But if that is true, and some days I lean towards that theory, then they haven't dumbed down our technology enough, because we have nuclear weapons, and that is of great concern to extraterrestrial and ultra terrestrials. Now, where does God come in? If you're monotheistic, as much of the world is, not all of the world, there are some that believe in many gods, and with a lowercase g, as I distinguish between the two for purposes of this session. But let's just assume, for the sake of argument, that there is one God or one supernatural life force energy that we all tap into, that's a part of all of us. Did that energy, did that creator send these other beings to assist humankind? Well, that is the big question, isn't it? So on the argument of yes, that they are heaven sent or God sent, we could look at some of the data of otherworldly beings disarming our nukes. And so I'll get into more detail about some of this in an upcoming session that I'm going to have. But suffice it to say that we do have documented cases where craft unknown, or UAP or UFO craft, have been spotted over nuclear sites, and suddenly, using some superior knowledge of how to do this, the nuclear weapons have been completely disarmed. And these are well documented cases. I know about the ones in the United States. I've heard about ones in other countries as well, and that this is nothing new. I also have received a message myself from my Arcturian guide, and just take it for what it's worth, that we're being protected right now from nuclear destruction, but that there, those guides whose job it is to help us with that are working very, very hard, very, very hard to help us with that right now. As I record this, it's March 18th, 2022, and Russia has invaded Ukraine, and with devastating results. But supposedly we're being protected from the nukes. So I don't know if they can catch them all, but that message has come through, and I'm not the only person in touch with non-human intelligent beings who has gotten that message. So let's hope so. So I would say, from that standpoint, that feels like a divine intervention, doesn't it? On the other hand, we have cases of abduction where some of these cases are highly credible, some not so much. Among the highly credible accounts of abductions, these non-human intelligent beings, I would term extraterrestrial as opposed to the ultras. The extras are in the physical form, have collected biological and sexual material from the kidnappees. And there is an argument that some or all of those kidnapping incidents are staged by our military in preparation to create a false flag invasion so that we can be controlled. I think there's too many of those. While that may be the case in certain instances, there's just so many abduction reports that it would be almost inconceivable that a military unit could carry out all of those. And the information that I've been able to gather, there seems to be a pattern or a trend where those doing the abducting, assuming that they are extraterrestrials and not any kind of false flag type of operation, don't intend for their kidnappees to even remember, let alone be harmed by what they're doing. It is almost like how we tag and release fish. And those are the kinds of things they're doing with us. So how do we separate out the two? Who do we trust? Who do we put our defenses up against? And this is where humankind is learning discernment. It's one of many instances where we're learning discernment. So I want to keep this brief, but I want to say to you that the best recommendation that I've received from my own team of guides through my own prayers and meditation is that in these times of turmoil, that we are align ourselves with God, Creator, Source, and first give gratitude that we have our lives here, that we're blessed, that we're here for a reason, and then be open to all of those non-human intelligent beings who wish to assist us. And invite your spirit guides, those are around you, whether they're beloved people or pets who once walked the earth and you knew in your life now or life before, or whether they're ultraterrestrials who really are wanting to protect the earth. Be open to their assistance. You could ask for it once a day, much like how you do prayers and meditations once a day. But I will say to you that free will is something that's being tested right now, and integration is being tested. And by free will, I mean our ability to choose our thoughts, words, and actions. And that the ultra-terrestrial communities seem to be getting information through to tell us that they don't want to see the earth destroyed, because this was their vacation grounds or playground before we were Homo sapiens sapien and beyond. And they wanted to see the earth be able to go back to being the untouched beauty, or at least the well maintained and well taken care of beauty that it has been in the past. And then there are ultra-terrestrials that want us to evolve and have the chance to evolve as did they. And they will interfere to a certain degree, but mostly what they're trying to do now is work behind the scenes by inspiring us and motivating us to do better and be better. And we don't pray to them, but we petition them for what we feel we need in the moment. And that's a way to continue, if you're a monotheist as me, one God, that's a way to not put up false idols and just accept that they're help from a loving God who knows that Earth is a rough hewn classroom and we need all the help that we can get. So, from that standpoint, my sense is that the ultras are a gift, just like any other spirit guide or angelic being. They are a gift from that loving creator, and that we need to keep our eyes open and our discernment aware for the extraterrestrials who may just see us as science experiments to follow and to track, or that they may see that some of us have been part of their hybridization and they have to keep track of us. Maybe our own souls agreed before we were born that we would be part of this evolution of humankind. So, whether or not the non human intelligent beings as a group have either helped us to grow in the past or stunted our growth so that it would be easier to control. At this point in time, it's about integration. So I'm going to come back to the integration that I mentioned a while ago. And I've heard this is a recurring theme from colleagues and those who study metaphysics as well, is that going through a time of a terrible pandemic and then immediately into a war that looks like over time it could be a decade or it could be 100 years, could escalate into another world involved war. People like to say World War III. I don't like to put numbers on things like that, but it is what it is. But I think that we have time, that we have plenty of time to change the course of this. And as I say this to you, I get some static on the top of my head, so I can feel the guides are getting really, really close as I talk with you about that, and that this is something they want. I get all my affirmative symbols are coming in clairvoyantly and clairaudiently, thumbs up, green light, and the happy ding, ding, ding of a bell. But integration is very important because as we went through the turmoil that we've been through the last couple of years on the world stage in terms of pandemic and government responses and community responses and socioeconomic changes and societal pressures, we have to integrate that. We barely caught our breath from that. And now we're looking at war. And so, how we discern what is best for ourselves and how we can put our best part of our souls forward to bring a little of heaven to earth. And by that, I don't mean that we're actually literally bringing heaven to earth. People always say, what do you mean by that? It's to bring inner peace to ourselves individually first, because it is through our own inner peace that we can bring peace to the outer world. And so I'm going to challenge you, rather than praying or focusing on changing people to bend to our will, that you may have heard me say this before, that instead we pray and focus and meditate on sending warriors of light to send light to all those involved in war and illuminate everything around them so that then they can, of their own free will, cannot hide from the repercussions of sending troops to massacre civilians and bombing theaters and schools and things like that. They have to see it, they have to feel it, they have to know it, and then give it over to our source, give it over to our God, and know that we have many ultra terrestrial friends who are very vested in us not destroying this planet and destroying each other. So, all right, let's return now with this very, I know this is a lot of compacted information to throw at you right now, but let's return to the original question of, were the gods sent by God? Were the gods little g sent by the monotheistic one God? Should you happen to believe in that as much of the world does. I know everybody doesn't. And in my humble opinion, my answer is we're all sent here for a reason, and that capital G God is within each one of us, and it is our role to make peace a reality in every way that we can, beginning with our own inner peace, and that we need to avail ourselves of these resources that God, capital G, or creator or source, has made available to us, including those resources within us. The bottom line is, and this is what I keep getting from my own spiritual team who's been around me since I was a little girl. They used to just be a white light. They came in when my granddad was writing his sermons. He was a preacher. On Saturday, we'd sit in his study, and a white light would come in the room. And when the white light came in, he'd write out his sermon on a pad of paper. The white light would leave, and his sermon was done for Sunday morning. I thought that's how all preachers got their sermons. I was a kid. What do I know? Well, that light began talking to me later on in life, and it became clear that not all the voices inside of that light were human. They were these beautiful beings that I just called angels. And later, when I was ready to accept it, I realized they were from different frequencies, maybe from planets, but not anymore because they evolved beyond needing bodies. But so I want to go back to that question where they sent. And you may not like this answer, but the thing is, nobody can save us but us, is the bottom line. Our ultra-terrestrial friends, our angels, our guides, they can stave off certain things. They can stave off a nuclear bomb going off. If they get there in time, nobody's all knowing all the time. And I think they're doing a darn good job. But we are the ones who we've been waiting for. That quote is so true in this day of March 2022. We are the ones that we are waiting for. We have to save us. No extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial or angel can do everything for us. And it starts at home with how we treat ourselves and how we treat others within our community, to stop seeking divisions and judgments about the other. And as this horrible invasion has brought home in a very clear and profound way, when we divide, we all suffer. And I look forward to the day when we're all united. And one of the things that helps me tune into my guides and may help you, and to feel God as a closer connection. We're always connected to God. We're never disconnected. We just feel disconnected, or we allow a feeling of disconnection. But one of the things that really helps me is to bless and be grateful that I'm here during this difficult time, that I'm here during this time of violence and loss, and I don't want to say mindful, because it always makes me think of my mind is full. Everybody's mind is too full right now, but be present. Be present in the moment. Don't turn away from the suffering, but don't make it your whole day unless you're in that war zone. Do what you can to help those around you at home. There are many ways to be helpful, hopeful, and healing, in the words of Edgar Casey, to others. And the prayer for the warrior angels of light will be most spectacularly received by those who need it. It's just a matter of time before it has an influence. But if we all do it, it will help. And our ultra-terrestrial friends are on standby to do what they can, but we are the ones who are responsible. And God sent you, God sent me, God sent the ultra-terrestrials, also known as gods back in the day. And we're loved, blessed, and known. And this creator, this source, is aware of every hair on your head, every ache in your body, every joy in your heart, everything. And don't be afraid to hurt when you see others hurting, because you're human. That is your empathy. And then take that energy and turn that into love in action, compassion in action, right where you are. part of our frustration is that we feel so helpless. We're not helpless. Every time we change our thoughts, words, and actions into positive, that energy carries through this entire planet. Our guides hear it, the source hears it and feels it. So at the end of the day, yes, we're all sent here by this loving source that is in you and me and all. And no matter how tough things are, the peace that surpasses all understanding is always available to you, but you have to make your inner peace your priority. Okay, warrior angels of light, ultra-terrestrial friends, we call upon you to send light to everywhere that is needed, to the homeless, hungry, suffering, suppressed, to those in war, to those creators of war. Illuminate everything so they cannot hide from the brutal destruction. They cannot hide from the consequences of their actions. They have to feel them here and now, and then of their own free will choose to do better. And so it is. I will leave you now. I hope to see you soon. Check out my Ascension, the Ultra Terrestrial Connection course. It's on March 29th. You can join it live and ask questions. You can watch the replay later. I'll be around for you. We have a very active community and we're all supporting each other through difficult times, and we're finding lots of joy in the process. For now, I'm Susanne Wilson, and I'm sending love from my heart to yours.